Mrs. Mock's favorite Shakespearean passages was Juliet's. When he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night, and pay no worship to the garish sun. Tonight, it is Edna Mae Neyrey Mock's star that we honor. Good evening. My name is Denny Chardonnay, and I would like to welcome all of you to this evening honoring someone whose memory is cherished by each one of us in this auditorium. Why this evening? Why this star? Well, to anyone who knew her, the better question would be, why not? Mrs. Mock gave of herself totally through her work and her association with decades of Ursuline students, faculty, and parents whose paths crossed her star. Edna Mae Neyrey Mock's association with Ursuline began in the 1920s when she transferred to Ursuline Elementary School and officially ended when she retired from the faculty in the 1980s. Through 7 decades, her laughter rang out through the halls of Ursuline. Many people say they can still hear its echo today. She attended Ursuline for elementary school, high school, and college. She studied ballet and attended Ben Hamley School for acting and elocution. She performed many varied roles, ranging from Peter Pan to Juliet. In preparing this tribute, we heard from Dr. Driscoll, who co-starred with Mrs. Mock in Ursuline's 1936 production of Smiling Through. Mrs. Mock was on the faculty of Ursuline College, and when it closed, she joined the faculty of the Academy. Throughout her years there, she taught English, speech, drama, and English as a second language to Ursuline boarders from all over Central America, Mexico, and Cuba. In the 1950s, Mrs. Mock and Sister Pierre Landry founded the Queen's Players, a drama group dedicated to her beloved Our Lady of Prom Succor. Mrs. Mock and QP produced many plays, at first with all-girl cast, girls assuming male roles, then with real boys. There were senior plays in the gym, Christmas pageants at the front door, and Shakespearean festivals in the courtyard. There were student-directed one-act plays, CYO play contest, and even scripts, original scripts written by Ms. Mock and her students. There were summer drama workshops. Queen's Players traveled to Shreveport, Monroe, Houston, and Lafayette for speech and drama tournaments. They even attended conferences in New York City. I attended one of those conferences in 1961, the National Catholic Theater Conference. We had a fabulous time and were able to see the original cast of Camelot, The Sound of Music, and Mary Mary. Sister Peggy Hill, Mother Madeline Marie, co-moderated QP in the 1960s. In 1965, this auditorium opened with The Wizard of Oz, with a crew of 91 and a cast of 147, ranging from first grade through high school. Thus began the tradition of the musical. In 1966, Peter Pan flew across this stage, with a little help from a harness made in the saddle shop and some barely visible wires guided by generous dads and teachers' husbands. In 1966, Ursuline and Mrs. Mock hosted the annual convention of the National Catholic Theater Conference. Queen's Players coordinated speakers, performers, and participants from all over the country. They arranged lodging, transportation, and the agenda for the conference. Mrs. Mock took groups of students on theater tours of New York and London. Even after her retirement, she was a constant face at Ursuline, as a substitute teacher, at prayer in the chapel, and as a keeper of the Ursuline tradition for all of us. Tonight, her star shines brightly in our walk of fame. I felt honored when Maureen asked me to MC this event. Mrs. Mock holds a special place in my heart as a teacher, director, and a very dear friend. She supported me in all of my endeavors at Ursuline, both on and off the stage, as well as inspired me to one day try to follow in her footsteps. I am currently the drama teacher at St. Paul's High School in Covington and direct productions for the school. In following in her footsteps, I had no idea that it would take me to an all-boys school. Quite a change from Ursuline. However, there are some striking similarities. Our theater troupe is entitled the Marian Players, dedicated also to our Blessed Mother as patroness. The name truly was plagiarized. When the Christian Brothers gave me the go-ahead to name the group after Our Lady, my first thoughts were immediately of the Queen's Players. But since there couldn't be two of those, the Marian Players were formed. I share Mrs. Mock's devotion to the Mother of God, who has seen me, my family, and my students through many crises, both large and small. Mrs. Mock's love of theater was contagious, and I was bitten by the bug, as were many of us here. But far beyond her love of theater, what I treasure most about Mrs. Mock was her love for each one of us as individuals. Her open acceptance of us for who we were made her a very special lady and a star whose brilliance shone brightly to guide us in a time in our lives when we were searching for the answers to some of life's most difficult questions. To me, she offered a loving yet firm support system that allowed and encouraged me to reach out, to stretch, and to grow. My prayer is that I may do the same for the students that I teach. May I inspire in them a love of theater, a love of life, and a love of our patroness, our Blessed Mother. I pray that I may light that same spark in my students, that their stars may shine brilliantly, and that they may in turn light the way for others on their journey through life. Mrs. Mock was and continues to be my inspiration. We laughed and talked together many times over the years. I kept in touch with her to let her know what I was doing, and she kept me posted on the new plays she had seen and on her many trips to New York. She continued to be a wonderfully supportive friend. Her star has shone brightly in my life for over 30 years, and it is where it should be now, nestled in the heavens. But its brilliance will continue to shine forever in the hearts of all who knew and loved her here on this earth. Now I would like to introduce to you our first performer for the evening, M.K. Wegman. M.K. is a 1966 graduate of Ursuline. She's a freelance consultant in the arts, working with theaters, dance troupes, and individual artists. She was Associate Director of the Contemporary Arts Center for 15 years and a recipient of the Mayor's Arts Award. She will share her memories of Mrs. Mock and the influence that she has had on the lives and careers of Ursuline girls.
We are here to pay tribute to honor, and to remember someone who was more than just a good teacher, more than a good director. Edna Mae Mock, for many of us, influenced our life's work. Almost immediately after graduating from Ursuline, I recognized the solid training in theater I was given here, under Edna Mae Mock's direction. I went into college and professional work, never having to unlearn bad skills. I'd been given all of the basic training. I could be heard and understood in the back row because I knew how to project and speak from my diaphragm. I can fall down on cue without injuring myself. I can walk downstairs without looking at every step. And I know not to gesture at myself when speaking in the first person. More than that, I knew what it meant to be part of an ensemble, that everyone could have a place in the process of making theater. Yeah, I know, there are no small parts, there are only small actors. I learned too that a woman has just as many possibilities open to her as any man. Joan of Arc and Antigone, even I Remember Mama, enmeshed us in the characters of strong women from history whose lives were characterized by great courage. We were encouraged to develop our own creativity, to write and direct plays ourselves. We even coped with censorship. In 1962, I was not allowed to say the word lousy in a production here. Now I work mostly among the contemporary artists of our community and nation, those who are challenging our ideas of what art must be, those who bring on themselves the charges of profanity and obscenity, the ones who are weird and cutting edge. Theater, the arts, hold a special place in the life of a community. It is a place where different people can come together to talk and work on a different level than that of everyday reality. It is even a place where lives can be changed, where people can address their concerns and reach a new level in their relationships. Theater is a part of culture. It makes people identifiable. A few weeks ago at an arts conference, we talked about mentoring a new generation of arts leaders. I thought of Edna Mae Mock. We were lucky that our director was a strong woman teaching in a girls' school. We could play boys' parts. We could set and run lights. I remember standing on a chair in the gym, hanging with my full weight from one of those rheostat dimmers, running the lights that night. We could have the courage to stand up for what we believe, have the strength to be visibly different from others in the community, have the ability to work with a group of people toward a common goal. As I began working with Maureen Mock on tonight's program, I realized and recognized many more ways in which Edna Mae had influenced us and the other girls at Ursuline to be strong women who would love the theater all of their lives. Because she loved the theater, it permeated her life. It was not something extra, only another form of entertainment, an alternative for her leisure dollar, but something exciting, challenging, important to see and to continue to experience. It was something of value to her and of value to us. There are so many other things to remember. Edna Mae's heart attack on our trip to Lafayette for a speech competition. Being given the role of Amy in Little Women when I longed for the part of Jo. All of those superior and first place awards in city and statewide competitions. Everyone who worked on tonight's program shared their memories of Edna Mae. Putting together this program became an opportunity to discover and realize just how many people from succeeding decades of Ursuline students have continued to have theater hold a place in their adult lives. Dorothy Henriquez, a founding member of the Contemporary Arts Center's Playwrights Unit, whose original script, They Call Me Rainbow, was nominated for Best New Play of the Year by Al Shea for Gambit's Big Easy Awards. Anne Lusto, whose work ranges from performing original monologues to directing children's theater at Le Petit. Joan D'Antoni, now living in Louisville, Kentucky, who saved the newspaper clipping announcing her Best Actor Award as Joan of Arc in the 1963 CYO Citywide Play Competition. Elise Cornet, who directs at Theater Marigny. Charlotte Anzalone, who performs around the region and will perform in May at a Daughters of Charity benefit. Paul Werner, the theater teacher at Ben Franklin High School. Nancy Bodie, technical manager for the Houston Opera. Many, many people whose lives include theater because of Edna Mae Mock. Many people can remember at least one teacher of whom they fondly think is important in their education. Few, however, had the privilege of working with someone like Edna Mae Mock, who could transfer her love of theater into the future of so many people with whom she worked at Ursuline.
Thank you, MK. Our next performer is Retta Tanny. Retta is a 1959 graduate of Ursuline. She played Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, and Katrina in her senior class play, I Remember Mama. She has gone on to found the Dinan Players in London and to write 2 plays for BBC Radio. She also presented a one-woman show, E.O. Catherine, in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Thank you, Dee. I was very pleased to be asked first to represent myself and secondly to represent the class of 1959. Until yesterday, when another alum was on the phone with me talking about tonight, and she said, "Do you realize how much older you are than anybody else up there?" And I shall see a great less of this woman in the future. Like one or two of the ladies behind me, our class never knew this building, though I did do a cutting here for Mrs. Mock. But we performed in the old gym, and we never knew the musical. We were never as happy as we were when we were drowning in tears, preferably wiped away with the upstage hand, and also thwacking our way through Shakespeare like Girl Scouts in a thicket. And so the 2 poems I have chosen are one very short. The first one, because Mrs. Mock, she liked my voice, and this is the only poem that I ever did for her. I didn't do it ever in public. I think you'll find that with several of us. I did it for her just in private. Now is the time to do it. Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Kubla Khan. Coleridge called it a fragment of an opium dream. He had taken a little opium, had a dream of the Emperor Kubla Khan building a great palace. Awoke, wrote the fragment down, and so it is a bit disjointed, and said he never finished it. Well, it's as finished as it can be. It has a sense of incantation, and I hope little vocal gymnastics that I wouldn't use with anything else. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure-doomed decree, where the sacred river ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground, with walls and towers were girdled round, and here were gardens, bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree, and here were forests, ancient as the hills, and folding sunny spots of greenery, but oh, that deep romantic chasm that slanted down a green hill athwart a cedared and covered a savage place, and holy and romantic, as e'er beneath the waning moon was haunted by woman wailing for her demon lover. And from this chasm, with ceaseless turmoil seething, as if the earth in fast, thick pants were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced, amid whose swift, half-intermittent bursts, huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail, or chaffy grain beneath the thresher's flail, and mid these dancing rocks, at once and ever, it flung up momently the sacred river, 5 miles meandering, with amazing motion. Through wood and dale the sacred river ran, and reached the caverns measureless to man and sight, into to a lifeless ocean. And mid this tumult, Kubla heard from far ancestral voices prophesying war. The shadow of the dome of pleasure floated midway on the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the gaze. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. A damsel with a dulcimer in a vision once I saw. She was an Abyssinian maiden, on her dulcimer she played, singing of Mount Deborah. Could I revive within me her symphony and song, to such a deep delight would win me, that with music loud and long I would build that haven air, that sunny dome, those caves of ice, and all who heard should see them there, and all should cry, beware, beware. His flashing eyes, his floating hair, weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes in holy dread. For he on honeydew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise. The second, just several lines from Alfred Lord Tennyson's The Passing of Arthur, the final book from The Idylls of the King. I never said this for Mrs. Mock, but I say it now for her and for Marcia Mock Thibodeau, because we worked together as undergraduates at Mary's Dominican College, and for Ray, because he was my daddy's friend. The round table is broken up. Arthur has sustained a mortal wound, and he is on a barge, going down the river to the strange place of Avalon. One knight alone remains on the bank, and Arthur gives him his final word. I have lived my life, and that which I have done may God within himself make pure. But thou, if thou shouldst never see my face again, pray for my soul. More things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of. Therefore let thy voice rise like a fountain for me day and night. For what are men better than sheep or goats that nourish a blind life within the brain, if knowing God, they lift not hands of prayer, both to themselves and those who call them friend. Therefore the whole round earth is bound by a gold chain about the feet of God. Thank you.
Thank you, Retta. Our next performer is Beth Thibodeau. Beth, who is Mrs. Mock's granddaughter, is a 1982 graduate and a former QP president. She has performed in productions with Ursuline, Loyola University, and Tulane Summer Lyric Theater. She will sing one of her grandmother's favorite songs, Memory, from Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats. She's accompanied by Hilda McKay Pilcher, who taught music at Ursuline for 9 years and accompanied many of Mrs. Mock's musicals. Okay.
I just told Hilda I wanted to say something. I hadn't planned on it, but it seemed kind of appropriate. The very first time that I stepped foot in this auditorium, it was for my 5th birthday, and my grandmother, whom we fondly called Gaggy, had told me that I could invite some of my friends and we would have a birthday party here. And I was under the impression that she had put together this production of Babes in Toyland in 1969 for me. And I really believed that for several years. We had the first row. So that was my first time in this auditorium, so that was kind of a special thing. And then my last time here performing as a student here was actually singing the song. In 1981, we had gone on a theater tour to London, and it was when Cats had first opened in London. And cats are her favorite animals, not just the play, but the real things are her favorite. And she always had cats, and we always grew up with cats. And I remember coming back from London, and we were just so excited about it. We were singing all the songs. And for our final senior drama class production, I guess, we played the record backstage, and I sang the song with the record. So why not do it again? And it's also fitting too that, and I didn't know this ahead of time, but Leslie Cafe, who'll be singing, is in the National Touring Company of Cats. And I know Leslie was one of my grandmother's favorites, so that's kind of neat too, but I'm not on Broadway, so. But that's okay. So this is for Gaggy. Midnight, not a sound from the pavement. Has the moon lost her memory? She is smiling alone. In the lamplight, the withered leaves collect at my feet, and the wind to moan. Memory, all alone in the moonlight, I can smile at the old days. I was beautiful then. I remember the time I knew what happiness was. Let the memory live again. Every street lamp seems to beat a fatalistic warning. Someone mutters, and the street lamp gutters, and soon it will be morning. Daylight, I must wait for the sunrise. I must think of a new life, and I mustn't give in. When the dawn comes, tonight will be a memory too, and a new day will begin.
Dolise Nolan. Dodie is an Ursuline graduate of 1967. She has worked extensively with Nord and has appeared in local TV commercials. She had a featured role in JFK, but it was totally edited out. Dodie is the current speech teacher and Queen's Players Director at Ursuline. Dodie will share anecdotes from Backstage with Mrs. Mock.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their entrances.
Yes, Mrs. Mock?
Too much gesticulation, too little interpretation. Try it again, okay. All the world's a stage, and all the men and... Yes, Miss Mock? I have the attention span of a gnat. I have the intelligence of a newt. Try it again. All the world's a stage. Yes, Miss Mock, I do have something between my ears. My feet? Two left. Well, we've all been the recipient of such mockisms, and we've all had our self-confidence boosted with such quips as, "You're trying to be an actress," or "You'll never set foot on another stage except a stagecoach out west." Miss Probst often tells of a story of when she first came to Ursuline, how anxious she was to attend a play rehearsal. She had heard so many stories about it. And so she was walking over to the gym, and as she approached the gym, she could hear Mrs. Mock in a discussion with a particular student. Miss Probst thought that student would never come back to Ursuline after that discussion. But not only was that student back here the next day, she was back on stage at rehearsal. Mrs. Mock afforded everyone an opportunity to perform. How many of you all were ever a tree in a forest, or a cloud in the sky, or a pumpkin in a pumpkin patch, or a wooden soldier in a parade? Why, if you were really lucky, you got to be a dong. You see, I was a dong. In the play Joan of Arc, I got to say dong 16 times. Now, some less talented people didn't get to say dong. They had to mouth the word. Mrs. Mock loved to create a challenge. Peter Pan had to fly across the stage, the cannon had to explode in The Wizard of Oz, the swing had to swing across the entire stage in Little Mary Sunshine, Bill Sikes and Oliver had to fall 11 feet off a bridge, and in Annie, we had to have the entire New York skyline as our backdrop. Now, during The Wizard of Oz, I was in a cast from my hip to my toe. So what did Mrs. Mock make me? One of the choreographers. Now, that was a challenge. Now, during Peter Pan, Wendy lost one of her contact lenses. Quick, grab a flashlight. There's the lens. It's on Captain Hook's boot, and he's on stage right now. Now, everyone knows what it's like backstage before and during a performance. Oh, hectic to say the least. And sometimes, just sometimes, St. Genetius and all those prayers, well, he just doesn't answer them quickly enough, or maybe he's on hold. Where's the hairspray? Who brought safety pins? My zipper broke. Mrs. Mock, I forgot the top of my costume. Or worse, Mrs. Mock, I forgot the bottom of mine. Is my lipstick red enough? Do I have on too much blush? There was one time in Antigone when in her most dramatic moment, her hair fell off. Then there was the time in Annie when the gel above Daddy Warbucks caught fire. Now, Mrs. Mock and I had three choices. First, we could just stop the play. Second, we could yell fire. And third, we could pray. We opted for the third, out with the fire. During Oliver, one of the backstage commodes backed up. While everyone was on stage singing Pop Pop, Mrs. Mock was mopping. Now, that Oliver reminds me of another thing. You know, Mrs. Mock recruited everybody to be in the plays. She even got her sons-in-law to be in the play, and Deveron was in Oliver. And this was dress rehearsal, I think final dress rehearsal. And Deveron somehow or other had bumped his head at home and was at the hospital getting stitches. Well, Mrs. Mock called the hospital to see when he would be finished so he could come to final dress rehearsal. You see, no one was excused from dress rehearsal. Another family story. Mr. Mock came home one day and he found Mrs. Mock taking the living room drapery off the wall. She also was having the furniture dry cleaned and fluffed up, and she told Mr. Mock that this was all going to be done in just about a week, so he went along with it. That particular week, Maureen had to be picked up from school, and when Mr. Mock walked into the gym, there was his living room on stage. Oh, the memories come flooding back, and oh, to relive them again. But every time you see a play, or every time you hear applause, you can relive them. Yes, Mrs. Mock. I'll keep it short. Dodie, don't bore the audience. I know. Goodbye. Thanks.
Thank you, Dodie. Our next performer is Ann Heisler. Ann is a skip of 1971. She has a Master of Fine Arts in Drama and Communications from the University of New Orleans, and she has been living and acting in New York City for the last 10 years. Tonight, she will share with us a cutting from Thornton Wilder's Our Town.
Thank you, Danny. Oh, time like this, all I can think of is St. Genesius, pray for us. When I was here studying with Ms. Mock, I never got to play Emily in Our Town. I didn't get to do it for the speech tournaments. Margaret Booker always got it. So I figured, hey, I'm gonna do it tonight. You not only live it, but you watch yourself live it. And as you watch it, you see the thing that they down there never see. You see the future. You know what's going to happen afterwards. It's true then. I can go back and live there again, but I won't live over a sad day. I'll choose a happy day. I choose my 12th birthday. All right. February 11th, 1899, a Tuesday. We'll begin at dawn. Your mother will be coming downstairs in a minute to make breakfast. Will she? And you remember, your father had been away for several days. He came back on the early morning train. Children! Wally! Emily! Time to get up! Mama, I'm here. Oh, how young Mama looks. I didn't know Mama was ever that young. You can come and dress by the kitchen fire if you like, but hurry. Oh, I can't bear it. She is so young and beautiful, Mama. Mama, I'm here. I'm grown up. Oh, I can't look at everything hard enough. Good morning, Mama. Well, now, dear, a very happy birthday to my girl, and many happy returns. Oh, I can't. But birthday or not, I want you to eat your breakfast good and slow. I want you to grow up and be a good and strong girl. That and the blue papers from your Aunt Carrie, and I reckon you can guess who brought the postcard album. George Gibbs. Must have come over in the cold pretty early. Oh, George, I'd forgotten that. Chew that bacon good and slow. It'll keep you warm on a cold day. Oh, Mama. Just look at me for 1 minute as though you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs. Wally's dead too, Mama. His appendix burst on a camping trip to North Conway. We felt just terrible about it, don't you remember? But for a moment, Mama, we're all together. Mama, just for a moment, we're happy. Mama, let's look at one another. That and the yellow paper over there is something I found in the attic among your grandmother's things. You're old enough to wear it now, and I thought you might like it. Wally has something for you, too. Be sure you make a big fuss about it. Oh, and your father has a surprise. Shh! Here he comes. I can't go on. It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another. I didn't realize so all that was going on, and we never noticed. Take me back up the hill to my grave. But first, wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners. Mama. Papa. Goodbye to clocks ticking. And Mama's sunflowers. And food. And coffee. And new iron dresses. And hot baths. And sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you are too wonderful for anybody to realize you. Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Our next speaker is Francis Bologna. Francis did not attend Ursuline, but he may as well have. He was a familiar presence in many QP rehearsals and productions. Whenever chairs had to be set up in the gym, or sets had to be made, or props had to be moved, Francis and Johnny Crentel were always there to help. Now Francis is a CPA and the father of 5. One of his daughters is a freshman at Ursuline, and one will be a member of next year's freshman class. Francis re-encountered Mrs. Mock through the Mirror Group, and he will share his recollections with us.
This evening, you all have had the distinct privilege of hearing just a sampling of the talents of these ladies that represent literally hundreds, virtually thousands of young ladies who were blessed with the nurturing and the confidence that we all received from Miss Mock. What most of you may not know is that there were a fair amount of young men who also seemed to have had that privilege. And this evening, I had the distinct privilege of representing those few who are affectionately known by many as Miss Mock's bad boys. It was an interesting sort of time then, back in those days in Ursuline. Miss Mock needed young men to play in some of her plays. And unlike our counterparts, the young ladies, well, they had the script in advance. They knew what role they were going to try out for. They practiced, rehearsed, auditioned, and then I'm sure said novenas, anticipating and hoping for that particular part to be given to them. Whereas the young men were selected on a somewhat different standard, if you will. We had to meet, frankly, one attribute. We had to be breathing. But listen, it was a good deal. Miss Mock needed young men, and young men needed to meet girls. It was a marriage made in heaven. If you think about it, in every production there was at least 50 to 60 young women. There were only 2 or 3 of us. These are great odds. If you couldn't get a date from an Ursuline girl after a production, there was something seriously wrong with you. This evening I'd like to share with you, in behalf of my counterparts, the Miss Mock bad boys, 3 dimensions of Miss Mock as seen through our perspective. The first 2 are very easy. We will just simply refer to them as Edna Mae Mock, Dr. Jekyll, Miss Hyde. The first 2 or 3 weeks of production in any play was a lot like Camelot. You could do no wrong. No matter what you did, it was, oh, no, gesture with the other hand, stage left, stage right, step forward, and it was always just wonderful. And then invariably, there was this day called Black Monday. This was a day that was announced sometime far in advance, though we never knew, that you had to have your lines memorized, no scripts allowed on stage. Well, we would arrive, as we typically did, for rehearsals filled with fun and frolic, and there she would stand, pencil in hair, hand on hips. All right, put them away, let's go. Panic. You have no idea the sense of fear. Now, some of us played ball in high school, and I can tell you, fear was a whole new meaning, okay, when you face this lady. And as God is kind and merciful, most of us usually had to come on somewhere in the end of the first act, early part of the second, and so while the girls were facing Miss Hyde, the boys were in the back scrambling feverishly for scripts, desperately trying to learn any lines. I would have been Miss Dove, okay? Any lines at all would have been fine. Eventually we had to go out and face Miss Hyde. She brought out the best in us because she forced us to give and to be all that we could be. And we will always be grateful to her for that. The last reflection I'd like to share with you is another dimension, one of confidence and one of her tremendous love for all of us. Denny stated in her opening statement how much Miss Mock looked for and wished all of us to be the best that we could be. I remember one evening, right before in fact it was opening night, and there were several of us standing in the back, still fidgeting and somewhat unprepared, to say the least. And feeling, well, very uncomfortable. We were kind of like 3 guys who were falling apart like cheap suits. And she came up to us and she said, "Now listen to me. What? You all have prepared, you all have studied, you will do well. And you will do well not because of me, or the cast. You will do well because you will give it your best. And let God do the rest. Go out there and do your best for the good Lord who created you, our Blessed Lady, Lady of Prom Succor, who loves you, and her Son. Now, give it your best. Do you understand? "20 years later, long after I'd forgotten that. In fact, you could have put a gun to my head the next day, and I don't think I could have recalled what you had told me. And yet 20 years later, roaming the halls of the Rivergate, in preparation for the first annual New Orleans Medjugorje Conference, I am busying myself in taking care of details and visiting with some of the volunteers who helped make that production possible, the conference possible. And I arrived at one of the booths, and who should I find but this elderly lady, gray hair, pencil, stuff like that. I looked down, and as she looked up, I have to tell you, at first, I didn't recognize her. But then she smiled. Who could forget that smile? Somehow when she smiled, it kind of spread from cheek to cheek, and those little wrinkles seemed to curl, those eyes sparkling. She said, "Francis, it's Miss Mock. How are you doing? Good to see you." We embraced for a moment. We began to chat and reminisce for old times. But unlike, or very much like Miss Mock, she wouldn't spend a lot of time discussing the past. It was always the present and the future. So she quickly asked, "What are you doing here? What's happening?" I explained to her that this evening I was to MC the conference, or MC for this weekend, I should say. And we were expecting a small, intimate crowd of about 7,000 to 9,000 people. And to say the least, Miss Mock, I am scared to death. She smiled for a moment, kind of held me by my arms, said, "Now you listen to me. I know you. You have prepared. You will do well. You're not going to do it for anyone else, not for family, not for friends, not for the mere group, for anyone. You're going to do it for the good Lord who gave you those talents, for a lady who loves you. And go out and promise me you give it your very best and let God do the rest." With that, she sent me off. For a brief moment, I was 16 again. I had someone say to me, "I believe in you. I have confidence in you. You can do it." Probably the greatest gift that Miss Mock gave to all of us. Okay? Very much the Ursuline spirit. I believe in you. You can do it. Go and give it your best. Let God do the rest. Conference ended Sunday afternoon. And as fate would have it, many of us who were involved were just in the front, receiving some thanks and appreciation from many who had been there and had received some very special blessings. From the corner of my eye, I could see Miss Mock. I excused myself quietly and went over to see her. And in vintage Miss Mock, she stood there with her head flared back and her arms extended, okay, just smiling. Gave me a big hug. We held for just a moment. And as she stepped back with tears in her eyes, I have to tell you, I don't recall her saying anything. And yet volumes were said. Gave me a hug, said, "God bless you and thank you." Sent me on my way. There are people waiting for you. And that was the last time I saw Miss Mock. So on behalf of Miss Mock's bad boys, and perhaps many of us who did not have the opportunity to express our feelings to her, I would like to join with this group and with everyone in expressing a heartfelt thanks for the gift that she has given all of us, a gift of confidence, a gift of love, an understanding. And it is God who gives us these things, and at best, we just give them back. God bless you, Ms. Mock. Thank you.
Our next performer is Leslie Castay. Leslie is a 1981 graduate of Ursuline. She made her Broadway debut in 42nd Street. She also appeared on Broadway with Sting in Three Penny Opera, which Mrs. Mock saw on her last trip to New York. Off-Broadway, Leslie has appeared in Too Many Girls and The Second Hurricane. Locally, she has starred in Tulane summer lyric productions of My Fair Lady and Carousel. Her regional theater credits include Nonsense and South Pacific. She has participated in the national tours of Annie and Cats. She has come here tonight from Houston, where she is appearing in Cats. Here with bits from Annie Get Your Gun is Leslie Castay.
The costumes, the scenery, the makeup, the props, the audience that lifts you when you're down. The headaches, the heartaches, the backaches, the flops, the sheriff who escorts you out of town. The opening when your heart beats like a drum. The closing when the customers won't come. There's no business like show business, like no business I know. Edna Mae Mock. She taught me everything about the theater. She taught me stage left from stage right. Never, ever break character, and always enter with that upstage foot. But I think the most important thing she taught me was to love the theater. When I was a senior here at Ursuline, the big musical was going to be Annie Get Your Gun, and Mrs. Mock had cast me as Annie Oakley. Well, I'm telling you, I was so excited because after 4 years of playing the boy, I was finally getting a chance to be a girl. Okay, she may have been a tomboy, but it was a big improvement. Well, somehow or another, we never got to do it. I graduated, went to college, moved to New York, and made my Broadway debut. But in all this time, I still haven't gotten a chance to play Annie Oakley. So I thought tonight I'd sing a couple of those songs. And I can't think of a better time and place than here, where it really all began for me. And tonight, for Edna Mae Mock. Got no diamond, got no pearl, still I think I'm a lucky girl. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no mansion, got no yacht, still I'm happy with what I got. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no checkbooks, got no banks, still I'd like to express my thanks. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm alright. Don't ask me just how it happened. I wish I knew. I can't believe that it's happened, and still it's true. I got lost in his arms, and I had to stay. It was dark in his arms, and I lost my way. From the dark came a voice, and it seemed to say, there you go, there you go. How I felt as I fell, I just can't recall, but But look what I found. Everything about it is appealing. Everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere can you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra mile. There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Even with a turkey that you know will fold, you may be stranded out in the cold. Still, you wouldn't trade it for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show. Let's go on with the show.
Thank you, Leslie. Our last speaker really needs no introduction at all. She is Sister Dedication Aycock, President of Ursuline Academy. She and Mrs. Mock were friends from their days as students at Ursuline. For several years, they were colleagues on the faculty. Sister Damien became principal in 1964, and they worked together in that capacity. And Mrs. Mock was still on the faculty when Sister Damien returned to New Orleans in the mid-'80s. Their friendship has spanned 6 decades. Sister Damien will make some closing comments.
Thank you, Denny. Francis said it so well this morning when he came into practice. He said, the years have gone by and we've all grown up. And that's what's happened. One remembrance that I have is sitting about where that first row is when this auditorium was just going up. The roof was on. We were sitting on horses. There were no chairs or seats there yet. No lights, no rug, a little bit of stage going up. And Edna Mae came in with stars in her eyes, and all I could see was an uncompleted structure and a lot of work that had to be done before we met our deadline. And Edna Mae looked up at this stage and she said, Damien, just think of all the wonderful things that are going to happen here. And they did happen. And they continue to happen. And you tonight have had an opportunity to see, to be part of some of those wonderful things. Because every one of these young women, and Francis, on the stage have endless numbers standing behind them who were also influenced by Mrs. Mock. As was said, her laughter still rings through our halls. But even more than that, her spirit has been caught up and through the years will continue to be, because Edna Mae left her mark on everyone. We're grateful to God. We're grateful to all who have helped her to have her dreams come true. And I'm sure, as I'm standing here before you tonight, that up there the director is saying, you did a good job. Maureen, wherever you are, you're the one who believed that it could happen when we called you and said, Maureen, we want to do something. We want to say thank you. We want to remember together. Would you be willing? And hesitantly you said, Well, yes. And it blossomed and grew, and here we are tonight. And Maureen put it together. Maureen. Thank you.
Thank you all, every one of you on stage, everyone backstage, the people cooking, everybody tonight has just been the most wonderful experience. My family and I are grateful to Ursuline and to all of you for this wonderful, wonderful tribute. The Edna Mae Mock Scholarship is a truly meaningful memento to my mother, to whom Ursuline meant so very much. She touched your lives, and tonight you have touched ours. We are all deeply aware of what Ursuline meant to Mother, and we rejoice that we were able to share her with so many of you. In a project like this one, there are always many people to thank, but I promise to keep it short because the party is waiting. To Denny Oulivere Charbonnet and all of our performers tonight, MK, Dodie, Retta, Francis, Anne, Beth, and Leslie, for tonight's wonderful performance, our deepest, deepest gratitude. To Paul Werner, the drama teacher from Ben Franklin and formerly at Mount Carmel where I taught with him, a longtime friend of my mother's and mine. Thank you for our sound system and our videotaping. To Annie Lusto for all the publicity that this event has garnered. To Marguerite Hathaway and Claire Crook, also very long and dear friends of my mother, for their wonderful attention to tickets and reservations. To Therese Wegman for all of her backstage help with any task that needed to be done. To the many businesses listed in our program for their generous donations, with special thanks wherever she is to Magdalene Perino. To Nancy Bodie Criticos for her artistic and technical design of tonight's production. To Michelle Capel and to Joe Bath Blight for the star-studded decorations that you will see throughout Ursuline when we cross over. To Poppy Tooker Mulladoo, who arranged and prepared everything for tonight's party and enlisted the aid of the Mulladoo and Krentel clans. Poppy's motto was, "Don't worry, Maureen, it'll be okay." And you know what? I didn't worry at all. To the Ursuline staff members, particularly Linda Crook, Asta Vigri-Cotonio, and Lisa Zacharis Barnett, for all of their help. They let us laugh and have fun, but then they saw to it that all the details were taken care of. To the Ursuline maintenance staff for whom we created terrible headaches, Roland, Lenny, Mr. Maybat, wherever you are, thank you very much. To Ursuline, and especially Sister Susan, the new president of prioress of the the community. She gave us complete free run of all of this school, and I'm talking about all of it. To the Ursuline faculty for their support and their help, especially Elise Cornet O'Neill, Sarah Druin, Sylvia Probst, Monica Beshara, and Jody, for whom no task was too much trouble. To the art classes for all their help with decorations. To the speech classes for stuffing the envelopes, helping with the cement outside, and appearing tonight in costume to usher and serve us. To the Ursuline community for all of your help, especially Sister Joan Marie, Sister Vera Marie, Sister Teresita, and Sister Elizabeth Susan. To Sister Damien for everything, for her vision, and for all of her nuts and bolts help. But mostly, thanks for bringing me back to Ursuline. Throughout this whole, I don't want to say ordeal, throughout this whole project, I have received many letters and many cards from people, and this one came in yesterday's mail. I'd like to take just a minute to read it to you. It says, "Dear Maureen, Living so far away, I've almost gotten accustomed to missing important events back home. But this one is really tough. This is an occasion that I would love to celebrate with all of you. While that's not possible for me, I couldn't let it pass without trying to express my feelings to you and to your family. Your mother is not just an essential part of Ursuline history, but she is a very important part of the individual histories of all the women whose lives she touched. Your mother taught me to roar. There's no greater gift she could have given me. That ability to roar has been a gift I have cherished throughout my life. Its spirit encouraged me through difficulties and enhanced my ability to celebrate life's blessings. It was very important in making me who I am. Your mom was responsible for some wonderful memories, but they were more than just memories. They were the cornerstones of my sense of identity. I know my experience is true of so many of us who were fortunate enough to be influenced by Mrs. Mock. It must be a source of great satisfaction for you to know that there were so many young women she taught to roar in their own way, and they each carried their gift, her gift, with them always. My love to you all. Margie Favret Caleri, our lion in The Wizard of Oz. Finally, there are two people who need to be thanked in a special way. To M.K. Wegman and to Mary Nolan Looney, who saw tonight's tribute through from its very beginnings to its end. To M.K. for her help with all the performance details, and to Mary for her design and execution of our invitations, our program, our tickets, and for all the decorations in front of the auditorium. It was Mary who made us meet each deadline. These two friends lent their talent, their expertise, their energy, their time, and their love to this project. But I am personally grateful to them most for reminding me that the oldest friends are the best friends. I'd like them to come forward, please. MK? Okay, as you came in tonight, I hope that you noticed the perfectly magnificent mosaic sidewalk star outside the auditorium. When I asked my Sister Damien, she asked me, what do you want to do? Do you want to put a bust of your mother in the auditorium? I said, oh no. She said, do you want to put a portrait? I said, we don't have a decent picture. We can't put a portrait. She said, what do you want to do? So we thought and thought. And one day it came to me, and I came up here in a very timid little voice, and I said, Sister Damien, I want to dig up the sidewalk in front of the auditorium, and I want to put a star there. And I want the star to say Edna Mae Mock. And that was all I thought it would be. That was a big deal enough, but she gave us the go-ahead. But that was before we met Elizabeth Leyh. Elizabeth earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from Syracuse University and a Master of Fine Arts degree from the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. She has worked in Israel and in England. In 1974, she was awarded the first Artist in Residence grant from the Arts Council of Great Britain. In 1988, she won first prize from the Royal Institute of Architects National Community Design Award for a playground in Cambridge, England. She has written 2 publications, Children Make Sculpture and Concrete Sculpture. She is currently an artist with Artist Studio Days at the Contemporary Arts Center, a program for New Orleans school children. She designed and constructed our sidewalk mosaic using local stone, and we are very grateful for this beautiful memorial. Elizabeth and her daughter Jenny have endured tremendous temperature extremes in this project, blistering heat, torrential rain. They worked under a visqueen tent that they constructed. And then today and yesterday, this cold and damp winter that we are experiencing. And they painstakingly and lovingly laid the star stone by stone. We finally convinced Elizabeth, who comes to us from the deserts of Israel, that New Orleans is built in a swamp and that cement does not dry here at the same rate that it dries in the rest of the world. So our star is not ready to be walked on, but it is certainly ready to be looked at. And I would like Elizabeth, she's very shy, but just to come forward here so that everybody can recognize her for her beautiful contribution to tonight. She is a really neat person. Okay, if you all will please allow Sister Damien, Elizabeth, my family, and me to leave first. We are going to go outside by the sidewalk mosaic star and symbolically complete and dedicate the mosaic by laying a medal of my mother's beloved Our Lady of Prompt Succor in the wet cement. If you care to brave tonight's elements, please come outside and stand on the steps and outside. If not, you can stand in the lobby. If you care to, just wait a few minutes. Everybody is cordially invited to exit that way, down State Street and into St. Ursula's and the scene lobby for a wonderful cocktail party. And please make sure that you go down the hall of the library, because it is completely decorated with pictures from all of the performances and years that my mother spent at Ursuline. Again, from me, my two brothers, Raymond and Henry, and all of our families, my husband Charlie, and all the Thibodeaus, Terry, Beth, Angele, Paul, Deborah, Gaggy, Helen, Ruth, all of them are here tonight, my two sons, and everybody else who's here. On behalf of all of us, thank you all so much for this beautiful tribute.
Unbelievable. Maureen, we want to definitely get some pictures of your family and then Sister Damien. See the part you did? Yeah.
But you did part of it?
He did part of the broke up slate. Yeah.
I handled it.
Right there. The sisters. Well, I don't know what we have to wait for Sister Damien. We have to wait for Elizabeth with the medal.
I'm gonna get a picture of them up there anyway.
I can't
Production like that. It was
Okay, is there any place I can read up against that you can see?
You okay? Just stay with me. Sure
Oh, this is special. You put it in here? That was a great idea. You hold it up. No, that's not I want to see It is. Elizabeth with the medal. What?
We get all our productions in the gym. That was one of those dog people. I remember. I'm glad she did our town every 5 years.
You can untie. You can untie. Limbo one. And you put them in.
We didn't practice this part. Nobody understands. When we planned this whole evening, we'd have done it in the afternoon if we had known the star was going to be so pretty. We thought we were going to have a piece of cement and somebody's going to write in it with a stick. So that's why it's at night and we don't have a dedication ceremony. But it is very appropriate that I take the medal of Our Lady of Prom Sucker and put it here at the top of the star. We don't have Our Lady of Prom Sucker, hastens help. Thank you all. Proceed right down. The candles will light your way. Light the lights.
Put your coat on, don't you?
That went great. Absolutely. Remember I came to see it what happened? Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's for, I tell you, it's a massive.
You want your coat, Ben?
This is who you want to see to get the money later. So take a good close picture, okay?
I won't hide. I'll shave my beard.
How are you doing? Good. Where are you?
I'm at Leyh. Sorry about the paper.
Help mom with the coat. Help mom with the coat.
Go to the party. Come on, y'all. My mother says, my mother would say this. Let's go to the party. That way. Come on. I'm ready. It's coffee. Let's go. Let's go. Hustle, hustle. Christine, yes?
What? I did. I'll swoop where I want.
So funny.
What is freshman this year?
Miss Joe right
We'll have paint if we round it up. That little bit made me laugh. Instead of Lauren. Yeah, I know. That's good. Yeah.
How about find you down here? So there was a connection to both of them.
Oh, no, stand. Be looking at it.
Wagon family represented 3 times. It's the little things, right?
Yeah.
Therese, where is the picture? Here, we're in this. They haven't changed the heat. Right. Select. Paste this picture next to Edna Mae. On the left.
Oh, yeah.
That's Maureen. And then the one who's in black tonight, her daughter, and then it's me on the left.
Oh dear, tell me about these pigeons because I have a homing pigeon that thinks he lives on my balcony. Because why does he stay with me? I don't know. I have like a chicken coop wire on the balcony. I know.
You've been adopted.
I have.
We get lost sometimes in their head. And we will not
Talk. No, I'm here for you. You're not here for me. Talk to each other. I mean...
time I knew what happiness was, let the